Right, I think we are live. It's
Trey's
Amigos.
live.
It's Mike Fenoya. How are you guys? Welcome. We are here. This is the quarantine tapes. I'm here with a couple of friends, co-author, co-host of Still Chasing, host of Welcome to the Party Pal, Across the Margin, the ATM podcast, and many others. Michael Shields.
How's
And
everyone doing
how are
out
you,
there?
Mikey?
I'm great.
Coming
I'm
up from
great.
to us from Brooklyn.
I'm glad to be with you guys.
Yeah, and also we have the one, the only. Honored to have you here, buddy, Mr. Thomas Marshall. Tomas, not Thomas. Tomas Marshall.
Hey, Mike, and hey, Mike. Thanks so much for having me, you guys. Thanks to my fellow Osiris podcasters for having me on.
This is coming to you guys live from the Osiris YouTube channel. We're all in our respective secret underground bunkers. We've chosen different backgrounds. I chose a therapist's office as a background.
I chose random American living room background.
And I don't have anything funny to say about I got a cool picture my friend took with an eye on it. Chris Prosser.
Mike, Tom and I were observing and commenting on how great your mustache
I
is.
knew you were gonna go there. It's actually I had it a little cleaner, but I do have some dirt on my upper lip. I want to do something funny for this situation. You got to get weird. You got to get weird and stay weird.
Dude, you grow like a Mets. You have a Wally Backman. You're like an '80s baseball player mustache.
Damn right. This is high praise, Mike.
Like someone that does coke too out in the open.
How dare you? This is my first. That's my first mustache. So I couldn't think of a better time to do it.
You never forget your first mustache.
You never. It's
never
a big
forget.
Deal. It's a big deal.
I wish I could forget my
Don't
first
forget
mustache.
where you were.
Tom, did you ever go through a mustache phase?
I did. It was brief, thank goodness. I kept it sort of close. It was a full beard, full mustache, and it was black as night. And it lasted possibly, like, I flirted with it for like a year or two at most. And the general reaction was negative. Children right away screaming. And so
my daughter's been begging me to shave it. She's not pleased.
Guys, today is it's April 2nd. And April 2nd, 1998 was the first night of one of the greatest runs in Phish history.
Yeah,
so it's kind of interesting.
Anniversary.
Yeah, things were a little different then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we going to remember this? Like, that's all, everything's going to be pre-COVID and post-COVID now?
Peace. Yeah. Before disease, after disease. I think it's going to be before Sigma Oasis and after Sigma Oasis, because I don't know. I'll speak for myself, and I want to ask you guys before we get into the nitty gritty here. Yesterday, the band released the album, and we had viewing parties and listening parties, whether it was YouTube or Facebook. I watched it on Facebook, and it was such a for some reason April 1st, I felt like it was just a new month starting of this shit new life we're kind of all living, and it was frustrating. I think I talked to both of you about how frustrated I was yesterday, but the tension built, and then the release came, and once again Phish was there to give us a breath of fresh air in a world of garbage. So it was really cool to be on Facebook and see all my high school friends, all my tour friends joining in. It's like, this person's now watching, this person just joined, and I got like a little choked up because it felt like we just entered the venue and we were waiting for the show to start. We were all kind of hanging out in the chat room waiting for it to get going. And I was just wondering if you guys had that pre-album jitters.
Mike, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll wreck it real quick. No, it was amazing. It was maybe the best hour I've had during this nonsense. I was telling you guys earlier, I live near a hospital, so there's sirens abound. I was able to put on headphones and just really get into it. The album was, as we'll get into, it's really, really special, but it was so cathartic to me. And also just this weird, odd, unique communal experience of listening with people. I was texting the whole time, and I was just happy. And it was just such a gift. Tom?
Yeah, no, I was just going to echo basically that. So excited that Phish kind of came up with the idea of doing it at all right at the right moment. It seemed like all these tensions were happening, just like in my day in particular, but but across the entire globe, obviously. And at least for that little moment, we had like the Phish community came together, and then the album was tremendously good. I was like happy that I hadn't heard a lot of these mixes. I kind of knew some of the titles that were going to be on it, but I hadn't heard it really. And I was just absolutely, completely blown away, like to the point of like fully emotional. Plus I had set up a couple like live tweets ready to go. So I was like actively like running from one computer back to the room, and my daughter and wife were in the room waiting for me. It was a really great experience. And then seeing the people's reactions on Twitter and also texting me, my phone just exploded and everyone flipped out and loved it. So it was an incredible night for me last night, a really amazing night. I'm so proud to be part of it.
Well, Tom, in all honesty, congratulations. I mean, and thank you.
Agreed. Yep.
And I mean, look, Story of the Ghost, a lot of Story of the Ghost was, a couple songs were debuted at Island Tour, Birds of a Feather and Shafty and Frankie Says. And, it's funny to look back at that and look at what we're doing here. Story of the Ghost, I think, this is my favorite album since Story of the Ghost. And I absolutely am so proud, and I mean, just grateful to even be able to chat with you about this. The lyric, I was texting you during Leaves, man, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is just
Leaves.
I mean,
Leaves
is just, I mean, that one did it, man.
I think
I
think they played it a couple of times, at least once, right? They played it during
three times.
Baker's Dozen, and as far as I know or could tell, I think it kind of went largely unnoticed. And so now people are kind of noticing it, and I'm glad, because to me it's a special song that says a lot.
I'm really hoping that this means they play it more now that everyone's out there and really enjoying it. It was very interesting for me just to hear that it sounds like you didn't know exactly the track list.
I think I knew the track list.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, but I mean, so many of your songs that you've written, not just recently, but I mean, we're talking back to 2011 with Steam. I mean, there's some of what I believe are some of your songwriting masterpieces are kind of came together in this album. It must have been, you said it was special, but it must have been really unique and interesting to see it all come together, all these songs written over this 9-year span, just in this. How did it feel?
Oh man, well, I mean, well, first of all, to address the old songs versus the new songs, our pal Scott Marks, Biz Archive on Twitter, put together a list that I found sort of helpful. Steam, like you said, is the oldest, and then Shade, Mercury from 2015, Leaves, Everything's Right, and Thread from 2017, and then Life Beyond the Dream, Sigma Oasis, and the most recent current song is Evening Song from 2019,
which is another phenomenal, I mean, just such a beautiful song.
Thanks, man. Well, the band, I'm the words, and then Trey and the band made it sound this amazing. So they worked hard, tirelessly on making it sound this good. So, I'm not going to take anything away from how incredible it sounds. That's all them. But I'm really, really lucky and honored to have words on here. And these happen to be songs that I also love. And it's kind of cool that they were all like tried and true, most of them on the road, actually all of them on the road a little bit, right? So
everyone.
Every single one was played.
There was one that could almost, I think, fell off. I think they did a recording of Epitaph, and I don't think it made it on for whatever reason. But that would have been the one that hadn't been toured, hadn't been played. So now they can't say that, or now they.
I noticed in watching the montage that was put together, that was playing along with the album.
Yeah.
And there was that whiteboard that is always in the background, and you see songs kind of listed, and a couple things are checked off or crossed off. And I saw like Sightless Escape.
Yeah.
Was one that was crossed off, and then. So Epitaph, that one. Do you know of any others that, and also the band released a really cool message today, talking about
let a few go.
They let a few go, and they were like, it stinks, but it is what it is. But I mean, so do you, the one Epitaph is the one that you know of that didn't make the cut?
That's actually the only one that I knew of. What were the other two? Did they name them?
It did not.
Of course not.
You said two. I thought you said two, though. Sightless and Escape.
Well, I saw Sightless on the board when I was watching, but in the write-up that they said, it's actually really beautiful, and we'll tweet it out, and we'll tweet it from Osiris. But it was really a nice message that the band had put out. Did you not see it, Tom?
I didn't see it today. No.
No. One of the things that they said that actually I'll just read right now. The last line of the chorus, Sigma Oasis, sums up this point. There's no place to get. There's nothing to achieve. There's no place to be. We're here, right now, is as good as it gets. You're already there. It's a content state of mind. You're just completely in the moment. You're already there. You already have everything you need. Sigma Oasis. It aligns with where we are in our career and as friends and musicians. There's a joy in the playing. We're not clamoring to make it. Make what? We're already there. Sigma Oasis. So it's kind of neat. That's how it ended. And it's a nice thing about how this album was recorded in November of 2019.
Right.
Mike, you and I talked about it, and I want to talk to Tom about it too. Like, how unbelievable. I texted you this last night, Tom. This album is exactly what we all needed, not wanted. It's what we needed. The lyrics and the messages in these songs breathe. Everything's right. I mean, there's so many great messages in this album. I mean, I wanted to grab your thoughts on just like how amazingly synchronistic it all is with what we're all dealing with right now.
Yeah. I mean, just like where we are right now as a nation and as a country in the world, it's like right now we as humans, we want to find the good, right? We have some time off from work, or kids are home. There's time to explore lost projects, but it's offset against this very bad and serious pandemic, right? And the toll that it's taken already. But more importantly, all of us are sitting here very worried about the toll that it's about to take. And, we're all worried that it could be unimaginably bad. But here we are, there's another backdrop. It's all my musical friends watched their entire tours just go up in smoke. Their livelihoods were kind of yanked away. And I'm proud of them all. Every single one of them making the best of it, collaborating online, doing virtual concerts, online instrument lessons. I've seen entire orchestras playing like Beethoven's Fifth from their individual homes, like 12 people doing their parts. And it's a remarkable thing we're living through right now. And these highlights are going to be what get us through. But like working apart with, from Trey, getting some of these things written. I'll remind you, there's sort of like you said, this was recorded in November, which is pre-COVID. So all these songs were written before any of this even happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there is a dividing line where some of the stuff that Trey's been coming out with, they've been calling it his quarantine album. And that stuff is post-COVID. So we can talk about one or the other. But
should we just dig into Oasis first, or you want to do Quarantine? Because I got a lot of questions on these songs.
Your pick, Tom.
Either one. I'll do whatever you guys want. I mean, Sigma Oasis is probably more interesting to people right now.
Yeah, that's what this is about. So I mean, that's the title track, and I'm almost embarrassed on how little I know about the meaning behind it. Anything I can take away with it really just seems like it's about living in the moment. And I also know that it harkens back. Scott Herman writes with you a lot, and so you guys have created 3 books. I'd love for you to speak on them, and the third one is Sigma Oasis. So this is, I mean, that song, this idea is behind it. It's been brewing for a little bit. Tell us everything.
Tell us everything.
Tell us everything. I don't know enough about it.
Dish, Tom.
Dish.
First, thanks for bringing up Scott Herman. He's my amazing friend, Scott Herman. Skippy, he's been my longtime Phish fan, wingman, writer, lyricist pal, and he's always been around. He's the one who I most often bounce ideas on before they go anywhere, before they leave my house. And lately, and I welcome it, and so does Trey, he's had more of a creative hand in a lot of the new stuff, and it's fantastic. So he's helped in 2 songs on this particular album, Sigma Oasis itself and Evening Song. But like you were saying, he and I, way back, and I just got it out in case anyone wanted to see it, there's 3 books that I actually call the real helping friendly books of Phish.
Do you have them?
Yes, I do. No one's ever seen
Oh,
them.
nice.
They're right here. I'll show you the cover, but basically, I'll give you a preview. It's Scott Herman and I worked at AT&T, and this is years and years ago. There was an 8 in the third digit of the year, and we put together. That's when we met, but around '97, we put together a bunch of our creative musings that largely went back and forth via email, and we put it in a book and called it Salamander Prince. And Trey and the band wrote a whole bunch of songs from this.
What's that image? Can you go a little bit forward?
Yeah, so this is actually me with a beard. You were asking,
whoa, check that out.
But it's in reverse, and it looks so creepy that we called it the Salamander Prince, which is actually a character in one of the songs that Scott wrote in here. But if you look at the date, it's
3/3/97.
3/3/97. We actually get a glimpse of Tom reverse mustache. That's pretty neat.
That's my reverse mustache. I'm trying to grow another reverse mustache right now.
It's the time. Everyone's doing it, man.
And then the next one is called On the Walls of the Cave. On the Walls.
Yeah. What were the 2 albums, the songs that those
keep that up for a minute. Tom, keep that up for 1 minute. And then say something, Tom.
Okay. So this one directly, so the first one, Salamander Prince, directly contributed to Farmhouse, Story of the Ghost, and Billy Breathes. This one directly contributed to Round Room and Undermined. And we now, Scott and I, since this June 2002, have been compiling a whole bunch of stuff, and that's what now we're putting together, and that's called Sigma Oasis. Sigma Oasis. Now, Sigma Oasis, since you're asking,
I'm definitely asking.
The thing that actually Trey and me and my friends from like 8th and 9th grade in Princeton Day School, where Trey was, we actually called a particular song or a version of the band or something, we called Sigma Oasis. There is a weird instrumental jam that we called Sigma Oasis. So Sigma Oasis like refers to like this early version of songwriting that like Trey and I and some of my friends, Mark Daubert and Dave Abrahams, were into since the very beginning of our relationship. So it encompasses a lot, and it's sort of like personal, meaningful and stuff. And I'd say it touches on themes of the past that Scott and Trey and I kind of wrapped into one song, and the ideas are fundamental to our songwriting. And basically it's abstract, and it probably should stay that way. I do on Under the Scales, I do deep dives into lyrics, but I have a feeling I won't be doing one for this song. But I do love lyrics.
I thought you might be tight-lipped on this one.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, on Twitter last night, I remarked on the lyrics, and Scott brought this up, and so did Trey. Take off your mask. The fear's an illusion, so don't even ask.
It's not okay right now. That's not okay.
Keep your mask on, folks.
Yep.
It was really awesome to follow along on your Twitter while the songs were. I know you said you had some preloaded stuff, and it was really wild to check out some of the stuff that you were putting up there, including artwork, including some of like little vignettes of the lyrics and what it meant to you. I'm really so stoked to hear more about it. But that was something that was so. It was like seeing like one of the directors. We were watching the director's cut.
Yeah,
I had a lot of friends thank me in particular for live tweeting last night. They really liked it, and I got a lot of answers to that in real time, and it was fun. But I was trying to watch the images that Phish had up as well, which were very beautiful. I guess Renee photos. It was beautiful.
So good.
Yeah, and sonically, and we talked about this a little bit, Tom, on text last night, that this didn't sound at all synthetic. This didn't sound at all. It sounded so pure and so live and raw, and the recordings you could tell were just start to finish cuts, and obviously overdubs a little bit with post stuff. But I mean, the guttural raw energy of this album, from track to track, it just captured the live essence so much of this band. A lot of people I saw online were like, "This is Phish finally sounding like Phish on an album."
And there's 3 jams, right? They do.
Yeah.
At least
God.
Everything's right.
Red.
And Steam has
Steam.
I mean, Steam is incredible. I mean, just unbelievable. Such a soulful version of Steam too. I like the Steam with the backing lyrics too. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. So the second song after Sigma Oasis is Leaves, and I'd love to get into that.
I'm truly madly in love. That song is, I'm so surprised, not surprised, but today after listening to the album 5-6 times over, that song from moment one, I was like, Jesus Christ, this song is the most beautiful thing I've
and
ever
you
heard.
spoke of the artwork he was showing, and the picture you chose was kind of like this fire raining down the earth, and you used that passage, we built a kingdom out of lies, and we blindly fanned the fire, and it gets deep. In honor, a little nod to RJB, co-founder of Osiris. He when you guys do the lyrical deep dives, he usually takes a stab at the meaning of what it is, and then you tell him that he's wrong, and then you tell him what it is.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, it's about a chick I knew in college.
I was wondering, for Leaves, I mean, just for like my take on it, and I'm sure I'm reading into it, is like politically, just like this kingdom of lies feels like, lies from above, governmental type things. We blindly fanned the fires. We've warmed our hands with glowing coals. Like I'm having climate change type things. And then it goes back to kind of, to me, of course, having solace in music because notes are rarely wrong. And then there's even solace from all this, torment around in nature. The moonlight dances softly in the leaves. And so, I don't know, I was just throwing out some ideas that I have that ring in my head when I hear it. Tell me I'm wrong and tell me what's going on.
Totally, man.
Not even close.
None of them are wrong. There is no wrong.
There's no wrong.
There's no wrong. And
Thank you.
I think there seems to be unwittingly a kind of a political message in there a little bit.
Yeah.
But then,
unwittingly though,
if you distill it down, there's and Trey and I kind of realize, sometimes we realize what we were writing about. I mean, we write a song to figure out what we are thinking about, right? So when you really boil this one down, it's kind of seems to be the concept of nature telling us something, like trying to say we've lost the way. And it's very clear at the end of the song, the earth is telling us, like writing messages on leaves and moonlight, imploring us to breathe. And here's another weird COVID-19 thing, because that one affects the lungs and breathing, which is another weird, unusual parallel to reality. But no, Leaves is to me, it's my favorite song on the album so far. And I don't have any that I dislike at all.
Right.
But
Yeah,
Leaves,
agreed.
I go back and listen to over and over again, just because I'm so incredibly thrilled with the way it came out. Fishman's voice on it, the bass, and then the amazing strings by Don Hart are just, phenomenal, really phenomenal.
Tom, as well, one of the things that, you talked about breathing and the COVID and all that. Also, the best way to combat anxiety is to breathe. And it's almost like when I was listening to this last night, I was getting tears in my eyes that it's like, this song was the breath that we all needed to breathe at the moment. And the way that breathe is kind of like held out, like the longer you inhale and hold and exhale, that's more of a meditative, transcendent way of breathing, which is the natural cure for anxiety.
And I'm so glad it came so close to the beginning of the album for us all to sort of get into that sort of trancey meditative state early. And everyone appreciated its location.
It's perfect.
Right into Everything's Right to keep things incredibly positive.
Well, and before we get into Everything's Right, I just
we don't have to leave Leaves all night.
One of the things I like the most about Leaves too is, and again, I mentioned this to you earlier, was that jam when it's like almost towards the end, about 4 minutes left in the song, 3 minutes left in the song, when that first like chorus of breathe, there's a nice deep Bug reminiscent jam there that just gets gritty and dirty, when like it just reminds me of that it doesn't matter, like that part of Bug. And that to me always is a point at a show where tears just stream down my face. I'm just so excited for that. So I was like, this song builds and crescendos at this point where we're just breathing out all of the bad and taking in all the good. And it was just
parts in Sigma Oasis that have a little Bug reminiscence for me as well. So that's interesting.
Well, we're both big fans of Bug. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. So
totally.
On to Everything's Right, huh? What do you say?
All right, here's another COVID line. Ready?
Yeah.
I'm in prison without a crime. My sentence stretches on undefined.
Very true.
Undefined. It's almost scary how much some of these lines hit home, and some of them are are brutal. I mean, we'll get into it, but you're alone being screamed at you right now. That's pretty daunting.
Well, that's in Thread.
That's in Thread. I know. I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, these
It was
lines.
one of the best things.
They
This
really
whole
hit.
album.
They really hit
whole,
hard right now.
Well,
this whole album is like, don't give up hope, don't give up hope, breathe, everything's right, and then it's like, you're all
alone.
You're all alone. It's like perfect Phish. It's scary at the end.
There seems to be like, you know, a lot of COVID related themes in this album, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
And it does make sense somehow. Somehow it makes sense. And so Scott and Trey and I have been talking about it quite a bit. And I guess isolation and loneliness sort of has been a theme of mine for a long time, like grappling with emotions in and out of relationships and the stillness that follows maybe. But Scott, Trey said the same thing to me at the same time after a conversation we were having. And it's hilarious. They said all our songs are about COVID-19 or caves.
COVID-19 or caves.
You're typecast into COVID-19 and caves. That's hilarious.
And oceans.
Wait,
Yeah.
you know what it is?
And wood now too. There's a lot of wood references in the. We'll get to it in
Yes.
the quarantine stuff.
It's very funny that those who don't know Phish and are quick to poo-poo them as, you know, oh, this is some noodly jam band, whatever. The lyrics have, like, that you've provided, Tom, have always been, which I've always really kind of felt like very attached to, are not scared to get into those moments, you know, stranded on a slender string and the minutes seem to last a lifetime. Yeah. There are very those moments. I mean, this right now, we're living in the longest panic attack, any of us. I find it interesting that you, me, Bob Dylan, we're all going through this together. Like, we're all going through, like, the most brilliant people alive are going through this with the same stupid people. Like, we're all going through this.
You, me, and Bob Dylan are the brilliant ones? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You, me, Bob Dylan, and then, like,
I feel very left out right now.
No, you too, Mikey.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's just that, like, I think that these lyrics are, I mean, obviously it wasn't written about this, but it's so cool that, you know, anxiety and loneliness and all of that is an amazing theme. And it's like an endless well to write about.
Absolutely. Mercury, the days that are met with loneliness, aid and abet
my loneliness. Absolutely. No, I mean, we're all a little bit broken. We're all a little bit scared, and you know, it's exacerbated now, but it's something we always dealt with. And I think a lot of the lyrics you've written throughout the years, we all relate to because they're honest and pure, and, you know, I mean, they're relatable to feelings we're having. And now we're having those feelings on steroids. Everything's Right is, we already touched on the jams too, but it's been a song that I have just loved, and Phish fans have just loved seeing live so much. It's like almost like 100%, you know, when it comes to their jam, they just kill it every time. And they found a way to, like, bottle that up, bring it in studio, and put out that blissful, amazing jam for Everything's Right. It's incredible.
I love it. And there's every now and then there's stuff to hear. It's a great headphone album.
Yeah.
I've been you know, walking with it, and I've been making my walks a lot longer than they normally are, which is long. And just listening over and over and over again. And there's voices you can't quite tell. They're in weird parts, like in Steam. I call it like the Steam choir is like doing weird woo woo woo. Very strange.
Love that. Oh yeah. My God, I love that.
Crazy. Well, Mike talked about how you know, it was conceived in November, and I guess at that point the producer needed some time before, so it gave Trey or Paige or anyone a couple months to work on it and add in layers and add in their own production to it, so they were able to, you know, kind of enhance the whole thing.
That was part of the message that they put out, you know, that they were explaining that they weren't planning on releasing this the way that it did. But in that time, like Mike said, the producer goes, do you mind if I wait until March to do the final mix? So then everybody, like Paige, went back over and did some, like, overlays. And I mean, the Everything's Right jam goes from, like, deep, no quarter type jams to, like, Pink Floyd echoes I hear in there a little bit. And I mean, I think he's the MVP in that song for sure. I mean, you can really hear Paige so much in this album.
Sigma Oasis has synthesizers and keyboards from Paige that I don't think I've heard. They're amazing, his treatment, and they're not overdone. They're light, and they're tasteful, and they're amazing. And it's just such another great aspect that I love about this album. It's I keep finding new stuff. That's kind of what it is. I've been listening, like you said, Mike. You listened 5 times today. I think I might have doubled that.
Well, I also listened to Trey's solo stuff 5 times today too, just because I knew we were going to talk about it. So only so many hours in the day I'm awake.
It was
thing people keep talking about is Mercury. Your day is longer than your year. People's days are stretching on endlessly at this moment.
I saw that put out there soon after this started, and I'm like, oh boy, let's talk about Mercury. It was really special to finally see it get. I mean, Mercury is a masterpiece. It's incredible, and to finally see it get its just due as its studio just due was amazing. Sounds great.
Yeah, Phish is a live band, and a lot of people were tweeting yesterday and today, have they become a studio band? And like, what a perfect time, right?
It's so exciting to see people excited about a studio album, though. It's not what happens in Phish universe, and this is cool.
And they're the perfect band for it, because they could easily right now put out 3 or 4 albums with all the stuff that's just live.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they could, if they want, they could put out a 58-minute Runaway Jim. That's an album,
And Dan and I are at the perfect age to appreciate studio albums, because, we grew up on Pink Floyd and, all these amazing bands that make incredible studio albums. And that's sort of what, like fed us in high school and college. And now they're kind of like getting a chance to join that game. They always seem to have been, obviously live centric. And now, for once they have an amazing, I think they've always sort of felt like they have this incredible album in them. I know Trey has sort of felt that, this is the album that sort of has been chasing him sort of for a long time. And they finally had time and the opportunity to do it, to do it right.
And just like with working out a different muscle group or whatever, I mean, Trey's singing is so courageous right now, and it's like really fierce, and he's hitting levels that he never hit before. And Ghost of the Forest, I think, gave him, kind of, I don't know, maybe the self permission to go for it. But some of the ways that he sings, in Life Beyond a Dream and in Mercury and Shade, even like
the end of
he
Shade
goes
when he's
for it.
Going out, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he's got that singing in the shower balls, but he's nailing it,
He, I think, more than anything that I know of that he's working on now is his voice. He's
singing.
Really been trying to push the singing, kick it up a notch, and he sure has. This album is incredible, and I like the new lines that he's finding. Even though we've all gotten used to a version of Shade, for example, and hearing slightly different version that he's doing now, to me, it's an improvement over sort of the standard one that repeats. This is different. He's finding like new roots around these words and making the words pop in an incredible emotional way.
Yeah, it's
extremely soulful.
Yeah.
This was like a soul prog album, I felt like.
Yeah. Can we it was just brought up, and I'm gonna force the issue. Can we talk more Shade? Because I'm a bit of a Phish ballad guy. They call me soft or whatever. It's so many times it shows that ballad came at the right time, that between these monstrous jams, and it was the valley that I needed. And I think even last night during Shade, I was getting pretty emotional. It's amazing. I think I was texting anyone that was at the top of my text list, I love you. And it's really a song that I really, really love. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about like some of the imagery in it, or actually you mentioned that you were kind of talking a little trash on Waste, or you were talking about the separation between Waste and Shade is what I should say.
It's grown up Waste, right?
It's grown up Waste, but Shade is a song about getting lost, you said, and finding your way home. And so how so, if you don't mind?
So I guess that was metaphorical, right? So home is the relationship, and getting lost is getting away from the relationship. So to me, it's like, it's a couple that loves each other very much, but they've both experienced doubts and both have run away and gotten lost. But the person waited for him or her to come home. So like in the beginning, the guy finds her ring that she might have taken off or thrown into the back alley or whatever it is. And by the end, he puts it back on her finger. So it's like, that's what I mean by running away and finding yourself back home.
Yeah, there's a serious like through line or kind of theme of loyalty too. And I didn't know If I went away, I'd get lost and you'd still be there anyway. I'm gonna cry right now. I don't care.
Mike, come on, man.
It's my
Come
favorite. Shade's amazing. I just think it's so beautiful. Yeah, and then so the ring was a little bit literal. I was always reading into like what, you know.
I think to me, you know, as I wrote it, I was thinking about, you know, uncovering a ring like in dirt, sort of, and the story behind how it got there. That's kind of like how the song started.
That's
but
amazing.
yeah, no, it became a, you know, South of the Border and Over the Moon, where they find their spot where they're dancing and singing the tune, and yeah, to me it's a couple, and they go through ups and downs like any couple, and to me it's definitely a love song, but more complicated, sort of complex love song. Waste is just, I wasn't talking trash about it. I think
I didn't mean to say that.
But I don't know if Steam is like the one you play at your wedding. Maybe it is. Who knows?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's the relationship that lasts. If your dance is Steam. Hey, Tom, I want to ask you about, like, for instance, with Shade, and I want to. I mean, I'm sure it's different every time, but do you have the chord progression ever in mind? Do you ever say to Trey, like, I hear like a sharp minor here, or I hear an E flat, or, you know, do you hum it to yourself, or do you go, hey, here's the words, and then the first time you hear it, you're like, oh, no shit, that's what it sounds like?
Well, Shade in particular, that was all Trey. But yeah,
wow.
there are songs that I write either like on the guitar or, you know, sketch out on the piano, and we'll bring that to Trey, and he loves that, because then he gets to, because I get trapped, like, you know, on the keyboard, it's like I get caught in C, F, G, you know, B, you know, a couple of the obvious things that keyboard people who aren't very good fall into the traps of. And then Trey just sort of says, great, that's a great foundation, and I can build upon it. And he loves it when I bring that. But Shade in particular, that was just lyrics that he did the whole thing.
Wow. It's amazing how, and then you hear it, you must be like, that's what that's supposed to sound like. That's such a wild relationship.
Totally. No question. That is how that is supposed to sound.
So evening song is super, super weird in this one way, meaning that it sounds sonically really, really sweet. But if you go through those lyrics, it's over and over and over again about troubles lurking in the dark. It describes the dark as a time when good things get shoved into the shadow. It's about how scary the night is, it seems. And then the song comes off so sweet. That's a weird thing going on.
And you said Scott helped you with this one.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. That was the other Scott song.
Yep. So this one to me is an incredibly beautiful song that came out of nowhere. Trey, I had actually brought my guitar to a hotel that Trey and I were staying in. We weren't really planning to write, and he didn't have a guitar, and I threw down some lyrics, and this one was on top, and Trey picked up the guitar and just started playing it, and it was just, he and I both looked at each other like, oh my God, we got a song here. And yes,
you got a hit.
This one for sure, like, get through the day, right? You get through the day, everything's happy and light, and the narrator here is urging caution, because at night things aren't what they seem. Night is a great cover for dark things to slide around unseen. It's a good time for spirits to cross over undetected. So be aware, I guess. Is
and all the good stuff gets like blown away with like a wind of evil. And I forget the exact words, but
it's very short words. I'll just read them really quick. I got
Please.
Them. Approach the night with caution. It's the best that you can do. Move quickly through the darkness till the daylight is renewed. Approach the night with caution. You will know it's for the best once tomorrow's morning quells the thumping in your chest. For evening is when all things dark can slide around with ease, and good things all get shoved in shadows by a wicked breeze.
Fuck.
It's not safe out there. It is not safe.
And then it ends.
Now, you know,
approach the night with caution. No longer shall you roam. When darkness stains the eastern sky, be sure that you are home. For night is the dividing line that blends the right and wrong. Spirits crossing freely over can hold you there too long. And those are all the words.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a little.
That's
dark.
Amazing.
It's dark, and it sounds. It's just the contrast to like how it is sonically is wild to me. It sounds real sweet when you hear an evening song. I don't know. It's not.
You know, it's funny too. Like for that song hit me personally right now because I spend my days alone because my wife is a nurse at a hospital. And my days are like, I can, avoid the news and not worry about what's going on. I put on the Food Network because that doesn't have a ticker on the bottom that says how many people have this thing. And I blast music all day long. And then she comes home and, you can see on her face the day she's had. And then she tells me the news and then it gets dark. So I approach the night with complete fucking terror at this point. So that one hit me right in the gut. And it's a beautiful one.
Thank your wife.
Yeah, thank you,
Phish community for us for the work she's doing.
Yeah, man. It's I hope everybody that's listening is staying home. That's all she says is just everybody needs to just stay home. But let's stay on the happy stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk about.
I love that you brought back even evening song to COVID, because as Tom said, they only write about two things: caves and COVID. So
come on, there's
what's the third?
Bats live in caves. Bats live in caves.
Oh, is that? The
bats gave us COVID, so it's all a circle.
It is Steam time, and I'm really excited for this because you posted. We were talking about what you were posting on Twitter during it. So you posted Matt Ryan is an artist from Free Lunch Studio. Is that right, Tom?
Yep. And
so you posted a picture of an imprisoned woman in a tower, and you said that this is what you always think of when you think of Steam. And Steam's a journey. It's a story, and it's kind of the first part of a trilogy. Am I right about this?
You're right. But it didn't start out that way. It just started out as Steam. And Steam was one of those songs where, painted a nice picture, but didn't know much about like the people in the story, and didn't know much about what happened before, and didn't know what happened after. And I had enough people come up to me and said, "What happens next? What happens next?" I started thinking like, well, what does happen next? And why is that guy there? And how does this woman end up in a tower imprisoned and all that stuff? So I think Thread sort of is part two. Thread's an obvious part two. It even follows it in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the concept of epitaph, which to me actually fills in some of the front story, which is weird. As a part three, it goes back in time a little bit. But epitaph, I hope will come out at some point.
Okay, so you're not gonna well because I mean Thread kind of ends with our protagonist laying down. It ends in some serious despair, laying down between the epitaph, underneath the epitaph. And so you were about to say what happens next.
Okay, well let's go back in time a moment here. So Steam, it starts with a dude looking up at a tower, and he's in snow. Snow's all around, and he looks up and sees a beautiful woman singing and throwing bread off the edge of her tower to wolves who are sort of following her around, eating the bread below her. And he can tell there's a kinship between her and the wolves, and this tower is frightening. And before long, he, for some reason which is not explained in the song, he begins to melt and becomes a spirit. His body, his corporeal body, melts into the snow, and he just becomes a clean spirit, and he floats up. And right around this time, he realizes that this woman is entrapped in this tower. She's a prisoner, and then her the prisoner guard, so to speak, comes. The guy who's keeping her in prison shows up on this war horse, and the horse's nostrils steam.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And he goes into the tower. He hears her scream, and then she emerges as a spirit. And so that's kind of how the song ends. They're happy, they fall in love, and they're swirling around the tower as spirits. When Thread starts, this woman spirit has abandoned this guy. She's gone off with the wolves on a mission of revenge.
Damn.
Yeah. And he's just left languid, like on the rocks near the tower, just hoping she comes back. And the way the song starts is he feels a golden thread pulling his chest, and it's her asking for help. And
that's what the thread is. That because it keeps revitalizing him.
That's the thread. It's her saying, "Help me, come, wake up." We don't know how much time has passed, but it's her needing help. And so he follows the thread and follows. There's different things like wrapping the golden thread tight round my wrist. I picture you singing to wolves in the mist, You were my companion, but you left me behind. A frown on your face and revenge on your mind.
Yeah, there's resentment.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of, by the time he approaches this churchyard, it's got like one scary looking tree, one gravestone under it, and like an old abandoned church. And he looks, and there's like this weird epitaph scrawled into the rock, and that's how the thread ends.
Yeah.
And then it gives way to what happens next.
And what happens next?
Well, in Epitaph, what happens is one of the wolves turns into a high school basketball player, and he ends up hanging out with Booth and Styles, and
Well, we'll find out at one point.
it becomes an 80s movie.
We have to find out. We need, I mean, because we're kind of left, and it's, to relate it to Empire Strikes Back, we're left in a really dark moment of this center, the center of the trilogy. It's so we're all waiting, Tom. We're waiting.
Well, and then we have, so we basically we went Steam into Thread, and then Life Beyond a Dream. We know came from the Ghost of the Forest collection, right? I mean, that was something that.
So the way that I understand it is that the actual album Ghost of the Forest didn't have this song on it.
Yeah.
However,
no, it did not. No, but he would play it. Yeah.
But he made a bunch of other songs for the tour once he did the tour.
Right. We saw this live in Harlem when we were at the show. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So that, I guess this song has been sort of in his mind as one that needs the big studio treatment as well.
Yeah.
And the strings that it got, again, with Don Hart, are phenomenal. Yeah. This song came out so beautifully. And again, his singing is over the top.
Yeah.
Over the top. And you know what else too, Tom, when it comes to the writing, where you are very, you use a lot of visions, and there's literal and figurative and double entendre and a lot of different meaning. Like Trey, you could tell Summer of '89 and A Life Beyond a Dream. I feel like Trey writes lyrics that are so specific to actual memories that he's having, and this song has that in it, like Two Stallions on a Perfect Ride and all this. And it just seems to me like I know exactly the moment that he's talking about, where you are talking about, a tower and ghosts and caves and bats and COVID, where he's actually talking about, a specific thing that I feel like he remembers, maybe with Sue or with whoever. So that song sticks out as yep, this is a Trey written tune.
And that one is completely Trey. I'm not involved in that one at all. And I love it very much. It's beautiful. I'm really glad that he let Thread end the album, though. It's perfect.
Yeah.
We all are. It ends on
that was the Halloween gag of the album. It's you're alone. You're alone. I love it.
It's like a crazy split open and melt, crazy wild jam to end that. That is amazing, guys.
That's super progressive. I mean, that's just prog to the
rock,
core,
crazy.
Man. I mean, that's like King Crimson sound and shit right there.
Yeah. A friend of mine said Kansas or something. Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas, totally. Yeah. Now, Tom, when you and I spoke for Still Chasing, we talked about, and you've talked about this a couple times. Let's get into the Trey stuff that you've been,
please,
the quarantine stuff.
Run out of time.
Well, you basically, you talked about how each song has 3 births, right? We talked about how it's a poem that makes it to your notebook or, comes out of your head, and then you give it to the band. And normally, in normal circumstances, they play it live, or it becomes a song and then you see it live, right?
First birth is I write it down and it becomes a poem.
Yeah.
In some fashion that I like in some way. The second one is I'm usually with Trey or my friend Anthony, and this poem, 2-dimensional piece of paper, becomes a song. That's the second birth. The third, if I'm lucky, is it becomes a Phish song.
A Phish song, right?
That's the third one, right?
It's kind of interesting that the birth cycle now of some of your writing, due to quarantine and due to the miracles of technology, are becoming. It's a little weird. It's like babies are being born in the second trimester right now.
Well, I think what you're talking about is what people were calling. Sigma Oasis has swung the spotlight away from this stuff that Trey was doing, which is tremendously, so incredibly creative. He was coming out with a song a day, which was amazing. And then Sigma Oasis now,
The best.
rightly, is eclipsed it a little bit. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. We're working all the time, calling, sending files, sending lyrics back and forth. Yeah, no, it's like working like we used to work in the old days. Because you know, prior to Billy Breathes, really. No, Farmhouse and Ghost were writing sessions, but the early albums like Lawn Boy, I guess
Rift.
Yeah, even Rift, right, and Picture of Nectar were all just me sending lyrics to Trey and then finding out later. Even Hoist were just me finding out later what the song's going to sound like. Then we started writing, and then Salamander Prince came into play, and that's when we have been ever since, up until COVID, have been writing, you know, using writing sessions where we set up our old high school multi-track recordings studio.
Yeah.
But now a little bit better than it was back then.
We've had conversations about how you prefer that. Like you know, for a long time it was hard where like you guys would call each other 30, 40 times a day on the phone, where you'd like to sit down and, you know, now with this circumstance, are you pretty much like, you know, it has the process changed in the sense where he's like, I need new lyrics right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we work best face to face. But in times like this, you know, we're like phoning, texting, we're getting the words and parts right. And I've sent tracks on Dropbox and WeTransfer, and there's lots of ways to collaborate in this digital world. And the distance, of course, is a distraction. But like I said, we wrote separately for years and years, and right up until, you know, the end of the all the stuff that you've heard on Sigma Oasis to the beginning of COVID, we wrote together, face to face. Now we're like, you know, hearkening back to our old method. And fortunately, we got these extra tools. We have the internet, this robust internet that we didn't have before.
So how are you doing it? What is the process? Are you do you mix together? Are you sending lyrics? You know, I just, you know, what's going on? How's this coming to life? It's just incredible.
Well, as you probably can tell, Trey's, you know, quite capable of playing multi-instruments and creating stuff just by himself in his room, and I'm the lyric provider, so to speak. Sometimes a melody provider, that would be, you know, when we're in communication on the phone. Sometimes we bat lyrics back and forth, make sure that the meaning is correct, that kind of thing. So there's collaboration still, but we're definitely separate, which is nice.
Are you pulling from old, like pre-COVID writing for some of these tunes?
It doesn't sound like it at all.
A lot of this stuff is very current.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely pointed and to what's happening at this point. It's incredible. What was the second one? It was just kind of like this ballad. It was about looking out the window.
When the words go away.
It's just so affecting about, like, you know, how so much silence is abounding, and, you know, it's just silence can kill you. I mean, if you look at all these lines, they're talking about this moment.
I'll read you two verses.
Please.
This is from When the Words Go Away. The snow's coming faster, my view round the bend, a beautiful valley tucked into a glen, can barely be seen. But where is the wind, where is the noise, where are voices again? Locked in a capsule for time without end, watching the world through a pane or a lens. There's nothing to fear when there's nobody near, but silence can kill, and there's lots of it here.
Lots. Too much.
So poignant.
There's
it's really
much.
wild.
No,
you know what I really love? I mean, you know, shaking someone's outstretched hand sounds like a Tin Machine song. It's like Bowie at his weirdest.
It gave
and Trey standing in like green onesie pajamas. Like, I imagine it's got like the button where he can, like, his hiney
that's the green clone suit. He repurposed
I know.
It's so great.
I was seeing
it. Oh, I see.
Like an old.
Yeah. I do. I love that one. You there hiding in plain sight by the window in the night. The time is coming when you'll stand shaking someone's outstretched hand.
Yeah, it speaks to a new reality. It speaks to, like, not being able to shake the hand and then being able to shake the hand.
Yeah, you long for the times when you could touch your pals.
Yep.
Lonely
Trip is one that I love so much too. That one's just so beautiful. Lonely Trip is just what a fun one.
It's really amazing. Then there's the two rockers. I mean, really, I mean, I never needed you like this before, and I Never Left Home is one. I saw you say that it made you feel like the others were just a warm up. Like, you like that one a lot.
Never Left Home. Yeah. up until Never Left Home, my favorite by far was I Never Needed You Like This Before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So good.
absolutely.
That one blew
It's
me
a
away.
ripper.
It's like, yeah, I get it. Trey can write beautiful ballads on his guitar. But this one kind of took me by surprise. It was like, whoa, that is a fucking rocker that came just out of his living room, and it was stunning. And
Get
it
that
Yeah, that
into the
sounded like
garden.
early. That was like early David Gilmour shit right there,
Mhm.
dude.
Knocked
Like
me
that was like
fire.
early Pink Floyd.
And then I don't know how he upped it with Never Left Home, which absolutely blew me away. It was just, I don't know. It's so echoey and reverby and bizarre. It's just so great. I love it.
Can I ask you a little bit about what that's about? Because I Never Left Home. It just feels like, and again, these lyrics are so pointed to the moment. I mean, is he? And again, I could be told I'm wrong right away, and I'm totally fine with that. But it seems like he's escaping his like physical confines with just his mind. He's talking about having journeys with his mind, but being he never left home. This is,
Correct.
I mean, it's that simple.
I think it's that simple. I think you nailed it. Impressed by composure you've shown for a week. I seem to recall that you got it from me, but now I'm weakened, confidence shattered. And then it occurs to me none of it mattered.
Yeah.
Drowned with delight, I escape in the night, hoping for something to spoil my flight. I'll never be halted. I always shall roam. But then it occurs that I never left home.
Yeah, and what's amazing is, and I know this from like listening to some of their stuff. Trey and Mike have both been practicing transcendental meditation, and for 20 minutes twice a day, you really do, you leave home. You mentally are able to kind of transcend all this bullshit, and you could tell in his writing and and the way that this music really is just kind of driven, that he's going somewhere else, and he's going to a good place, and then he's bringing back a little bit of knowledge from the other planes and dimensions, and that's the stuff to me that's super exciting, to take your lyrics and bring it to that transcendent place. It's the only thing that we can do right now. How's like, do you talk with him daily? Is he hanging in there? Is he like cooped up? Like, I think some people are better at being cooped up than others. Like some people are digging this. They're like, yeah, whatever, it's a vacation, I don't have to go to my office. I feel like a circus animal right now. Like I'm climbing the walls.
Sounds like you're lonely more. I know that Trey's got people in his house, so I think he's less lonely. And I think obviously we all know what he's up to. He's making music, and I think he's sort of taking a deserved couple days off, just sitting back and checking out the reaction to Sigma Oasis.
And then we get back to a song a day, right?
Then we'll get back to a song a day. Yep.
He needs to clean his room. He
He did. It looked
That's
like
one thing I noticed.
He was upping his game every time. There was like something different changing every time. It was
cool. When they that point where they went to the lights, when they strung up lights, I was just like, oh, it's on now. He's getting his quarantine on.
Yeah, Kuroda sent him a care package.
I have to shout out my friend, speaking of care packages, my friend Hunter Hastings made a trip to Maine and brought me back some Bissell Brothers beer. And my friend nice. Stephen Thomas. He did the drive. And so thanks, Tebow. Thanks, Hunter, for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet up with Cully from Treehouse tomorrow. He's going to be bringing me some Julius and some good New England beers, because I'm going to hunker down for a long month. But this was, I mean, I really I'm so excited to dive back into the album again. And again and again. And this is one that, I mean, really, like you said it just in passing with this, Tom, is that there's not one track I don't like. There's really literally nothing on this album that I don't want to hear.
I feel that they've fallen into the trap. Phish before has fallen into the trap of putting on like an inside joke kind of track. How many people go back and listen to is it Ficus?
Ficus. That's exactly the song I had in my head this whole time. I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, but it's like
End of Session.
If you put that on, it kind of like people listen to it once and go, oh, that's humorous, but it ultimately kind of sabotages the album in a way. And I think they didn't fall into the trap of self-sabotage. Unintentional. I don't mean it's intentional. I just think they finally like arrived at this idea. Let's just fucking put the best stuff on, and they did. They find tried and true, toured and true workhorse songs that are amazing.
Did your first listen, were you just so satisfied with everything the way, I mean, I know it goes without saying, we talked about how amazing it was, but to hear your lyrics, you know, we've heard them live, we've heard these songs live. I mean, this is a book. This is a novel that you wrote, this album.
I couldn't be prouder. This is
Wow.
the most, last night was a pinnacle in my songwriting career by far. This is an amazing, I feel, Phish masterpiece that I'm really privileged and happy to be involved with.
That's
Well,
incredible.
we're both very privileged and happy to talk with you about
Thank
it,
you,
Tom. And we love you very much. And please stay safe. And you know, thank you for your time, Mikey. You too.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone out there. Really, this is we'll all be back at it soon enough. Stay safe. You guys are all amazing.
And everybody, stay tuned to Osiris Media on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. We've got a bunch of amazing content. You can follow at Mike Fenoya, at Tom Marshall 111, or at Boy Tommy on Instagram, and at Mike SHZA. And thank you guys so much. Stay safe,
Matt.
stay home.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
For setting
Thank you,
this
Matt,
up.
for doing this. Yeah, and thank you everybody for spending time with us. And if you have any money that you can donate, donate it to your local hospitals.
Yes.
They need it right now. They really do. Take care of the people that are the heroes that are taking care of us. We love you guys. Peace out.
Thank you all.